welcome back. This is your old pal Hondo doing another video for you on disassembly of a reel and reassemble on the new Zebco 33 Platinum series. We'll do a quick review on it, and then we'll get to the disassembly of the reel and show you how to do it and give you my thoughts on this reel as well. This is the new 2020 Zebco 33 Platinum. Okay folks, welcome back. This is your old pal Hondo doing the review portion of this on this reel. First of all, on this reel you have a straight line drag, which is typical on most modern and 1980s Zebco 33s and 808s and 888s and so on and so forth. Straight line drag means it's a disc drag. It has little interlocking discs and Teflon washers. It has an all steel body, an all aluminum body, my bad, and it has an aluminum cover, and it has 4-in-1 ball bearings. It's also a 4-7-1 gear ratio. It's a slight improvement over the 4 and 4-7 gear ratio on the new authentic Zebco 33, which is it has a graphite frame, but this one has an all steel frame. What that gives you with the all steel frame is that it gives you a longevity on the foot right here. The foot is made out of all metal, so this will last you a lot longer than a graphite reel. And it has this double handle crank, which is definitely an improvement over the last generation of Platinums, which had little flat knobs. This one has a nice textured rubberized knob, and it's very smooth as well. And it's ambidextrous, so you can take it from right to left-handed if you need to. The only gripes that I have about this reel, and you might come in to it might be a gripe for you as well, is the instead of having a flathead screwdriver right here for the nut here to take the handle off, you have to have a Allen wrench key, and the hole here is really small. But it doesn't take away from its overall performance in casting. It does cast great. I've had it for about a week, and I used it before the season went out, and I used it like maybe 3 or 4 times, caught a few fish with it. It didn't have any issues so far. And another gripe that I have with this reel is when you take the spinner cone off, this, a lot of these modern reels, when you take the cone off, the protector cone, it has this plastic insert that goes over the spinner cone that protects the spinner itself on the inside, and it wears out really quick. And instead of just being steel, it's just this irritating plastic which wears out, and you can see it'll rub off onto the reel and eventually wear out to the point where in the future it may not, you won't be able to twist it back on there, and it'll just keep slipping off while you're trying to cast it. It does have 2 pickup pins, and instead of having a continuous anti-reverse on this like the older ones does, this one has a instant anti-reverse. I don't know what that is, but it seems to work fairly well. It does have the classic Zebco 33 spinner cone with the plastic brake, line brake. It works fantastic. It's really fast compared to the old 4-4-1 gear ratio Platinums from last year. The last year they made them. Highly irritating about this one is that the older models had the easy pull off spool. That means you could pull the spool off and twist it one way and it comes off sort of like the Omega. It doesn't have that anymore. It has basically the early generation, like 2014 model type of standard a fixed spool. Now we're going to break it open, and the first thing you want to do is you want to put it on the lessest setting, like the minus all the way. That way it's easier to pull the spool off. And you take the spool off by holding the handle down and twisting it off. And this reel does come pre-spooled with a 10-pound Cajun clear line. After you pull the spool off like that, you'll see it has 2 pickup pins. It's in fairly good condition. Now when you get to this point, there's this little pin here But this is the thing I find irritating. This little plastic piece right here. They didn't have this like little plastic piece on the earlier models, but if you do not put this back on, it won't engage the pickup pins and it won't work right. But it's easy to take off. You just basically twist it off once you do that. But the issue I have with this little piece of plastic, it's threaded and it goes on the inside of the ball bearing there. That plastic threading, if you don't put it on right, it'll eventually wear out and then you're going to have to get a new thread. Now, there's a ball bearing right here on top of the reel, which is very tricky to get off, but I'll show you how to do it. First, you want to wedge. You want to take like a nail punch and just try to wedge it loose first until you get it to a point like that. And once you get it open a little bit, like right there, you take a really micro size flathead screwdriver and try to just twist it and jimmy it, and then work your way around the bearing until it pops off, which is a pain in the butt to get it off. But once it comes off, you can basically take it off by hand. Make sure you remember where all the parts go. You might want to take a picture. Now after you get that bearing off, now you can get the spool off of it itself. Like I said, the older models were easy twist off. This one isn't. It's like the earlier generations. Then you stick your hole punch in there and just basically try to pull the pin loose. You know, just be careful. Pin should come right out. If that doesn't work, you take a flathead screwdriver. You need a flathead screwdriver to get it off. So we're going to use a flathead screwdriver here to just basically wedge the pin out. It holds it into place. Like I said, it can be tricky to get the pin out. And once the pin comes out, you basically just wedge it out. Sometimes it'll sling across the room, so be careful of that. Okay, we got a metal washer that has a little indention. You find where the indention is, like right here, and you pull it off like so. And sometimes it can be tricky, so you take that off like that, set it to the side, make sure you keep your parts in one little area. And it comes with a little Teflon washer that can be tricky to take off sometimes. And once you get it off, you set it on top of that metal washer so you know where it's at. And now you can remove the spool. Underneath that, you have another Teflon washer. You have three washers. You have a Teflon washer right here. You have the metal washer that goes underneath it, like so. You pull that out, and then you have another small washer on top of the drag washer, which has these little grooves. You basically got to put it back in the way it came in. You set these washers off to the side, and put them in a pile that you know where it goes. Now here's the tricky part. Now once you want to take the handle off, at this point you can take the handle off. You take your and the little drag falls out right here as well, that holds the little drag knob into place. This little piece here falls out no matter what you do. Once you pull that out, you can finally get to this little screw here, which holds the handle in place. And you take basically an Allen screw, Allen key, wrench, or whatever, and you put it in your screwdriver or your little Allen key to remove the handle. And instead of having a flathead screwdriver like I explained to you, so you can take this handle out when you feel like it, or use a penny, they made it to where you have to use this stinking little Allen wrench type of deal, and that is a pain in the butt. But once you get to the screw to a certain point, you could just pull it out by hand and take the handle out. And once you take the handle out, you're ready to remove the back portion of the reel. At this point, you're going to need a small flathead screwdriver. I tend to use a smaller one like this one to take this out. What you want to do is you want to stick it underneath the button, and it just pops right off like that. Once that pops out of place, you remove it and put it to the side. You pull out the trigger or the button. Now the little button is almost impossible to get out unless you remove the gears itself. Right here you have this little pin you have to remove first. It's a small pin. Make sure you get a strong pair of pliers to pull it out. You're going to need to take these big old Hoken pliers and grab a hold of it, and it comes right out like so. And you get to this point here, you have two ball bearings right here on either side of the reel. This reel is really beautiful. It has high-speed Magnum gears, Helix gear system. To remove those bearings, you have to basically, you can take a flathead screwdriver like this and just push one out of the way like so. You just push it until it falls out, and then put it off to the side with the other parts. And then there's another one that's a little bit trickier to get out, and it removes, and you just drop it out of the side there. You take the ball bearing, set it to the side, and at this point you can remove the gear system itself from the reel. Now when you pull this gear out right here, there's a little metal washer that goes back on the back of this wheel here like this, and you have to put this little washer back on here when you reassemble this reel, this gear back in there. And once you pull that out, set it off to the side. I just leave it on there. Now you can pull out the center pinion gear, and once you do that, this little center pinion gear comes right out, and right here is the instant anti-reverse ball bearing right here on the end of the reel. That's your 5th ball bearing. This is what breaks the reel on the when you're casting it and you're reeling it. This is what breaks your reel to keep it from, you know, going out of control. This little washer here, this little ball bearing slash brake, and here's your 5th ball bearing right here on the reel. And here is your Magnum pinion gear system. Now we're going to clean these in some soapy water, and we're going to re-grease the reel. Now the only thing you really need to clean is this and this. If it's been sitting for 2 or 3 years, you clean these 2 gears, re-lube them, and Bob's your uncle. That is clean enough. Honestly, I don't think they put enough grease on these from the factory, so we're going to re-grease them with my favorite bearing grease. Okay, we're going to stick the gears in here. We're going to stick the pinion gear in here, and we're going to stick the body of the reel in here as well. We're going to give it a nice little bath as well with a toothbrush and WD-40. And I think that's all the parts that we need to put in here, and we'll wipe the rest of them, hand wipe them and re-lube them. We're back. We got the parts for the reel clean, the pinion gear, the flute. We got the wheel gear clean and wiped off, the spool wiped off and cleaned, and all the excess washers as well clean, and the body. I always like cleaning my reels and re-lubing them myself when you first buy them. I don't think they put enough lube on them, to be honest. Start with the back end of the reel first, and work our way up from there. The first thing you want to do is put the drag knob back up in here underneath the spot right here. It'll go right in. Don't worry about it. We'll put in the little drag in last. There's a lot of moving parts on this reel, so we're going to try to do this as quick as we can. We're going to open up the bearing grease that we're going to use to re-grease and lube the gears. And you really don't need much, just enough right here and on the pinion gear itself. And I'm going to put a little bit right there on here and the front of this so it slides back on there. And we'll put some of that grease on here, just a little bit. You don't need a heaping amount of it, you just need a little bit of grease on there. You use your finger and just put it on there sparingly, and we got enough grease there. Now when you want to grease this wheel gear, you have to grease it from here on the tips and on the back end right here. So we're going to do that. Put a little bit of grease right here and on the gear wheel itself, in the gear wheels, and the gear, like little teeth right here on the gear wheels. Right here, just a little bit will do. You don't want too much. You just want enough grease on there to ride over the ball bearings. You don't need to put it on the back of the reel. You just need to put it on the shaft which is very simple, and you just put a little bit on there. Don't need much. A little bit is good enough, and we got enough grease on there to choke a horse. And now that we got our parts greased, now it's time to reassemble the back end of the reel. Now we'll need the bearings. These are the two side bearings for the handle and the two bearings that go on the pinion gear. Now you can grease these if you want. You don't have to. You can just put a little bit of oil in between the bearings themselves. That's all you really need is a little bit of oil. Lift this one upside down, put a little bit of oil in it itself. It's all still kind of greasy from the last greasing that it had from the factory. I'm going to reassemble this now. Now you need to put that small little washer back on the back end of the reel right here itself, right on the back end like that. That small washer's got to go back on there. If you don't, it will not work right. Okay, now we got that in place, we're going to put the pinion gear back together, because the pinion gear goes in first. You want to stick the pinion ball bearing on the shaft like so first, and then you put the, this side, the supposed side, upside down, and the flat metal side goes on top. So you have the brake, the instant anti-reverse brake back on that gear. Once you do that, you shove this pinion gear back in the center of the reel like so until it goes in proper, and that's all you need to do. And then you return the wheel gear back into place like so. I think I got it in there right. Just make sure it moves around properly. And I think we got it. Once you get that in there, okay, put the ball bearing back in here and the ball bearing on here as well. You put the ball bearings in at the same time. It makes it easier for this to go into place. Now you want to take a center punch to push the bearing back on the wheel gear on both sides. It should go over the wheel gears fairly easy until it goes into place. Sometimes you might need to beat it in there to get it to go over the freaking wheel gear. And once you do that, push the wheel gear to see if it operates, which it does. Okay, that's good. And now that we got that in place, we could return the little pin that holds the gear into place. You have to kind of smush it, and sometimes it falls out when you're trying to do this. You need to smush it in with your hand and try to push it back down on there. Once you do that, you could just push it back into place, and Bob's your uncle, it's back in. Now at this point, once you get that back in, you could test to see how smooth it is, and it is smooth, okay, that it's working and operating properly, which it is now. And once you do that, it's working right. Once you do that, you can put a little bit of oil in here and down on the pinion gear, and a little bit of extra oil doesn't hurt anything on the wheel gear as well. You're pretty much done with the back end of the reel, and you could basically start over from the front of the reel. Now this is where, after you put the back gears in, you could put the front back on. And for the re-lubing on the front spool, we're going to use some Vaseline and recoat all the parts with it, like the spool itself right here, and just put a little bit of this on here. I don't like using bearing grease on this, so I'll use a little bit of the to coat the washers as well, to give it a little bit of lubrication, because we wiped basically all the old lubrication off of this. And lube this washer here, the drag washer, and the washer that goes on top of the drag washer, and we pretty much got everything re-lubed that we need right here. And once you get that done with the washers, then you could re-lube this whole center body of the reel. I like to put a little bit of lube around here, just a little bit, not much, just around this spot here on the body of the reel, and basically that's all I'm going to put on there. That's good enough. Now we could reassemble the front of the reel. Once you do that, you have to basically, where the drag knob is, you have to kind of let it pop out a little bit, and you put this little the little drag gear back in, like right there, and make sure it's working right. And then you place the drag washer back on top, like so, until it hits that little gear. It has to be like at that spot right there for it to work properly. Once you put that back on, you put the metal washer in the little slot right here. It goes right on top of it. The metal washer does first. Then the plastic Teflon washer goes on top of it. Once you do that, you could put the spool back in place, which goes on top of it like so, and just make sure it's on there tight. Now you could replace the plastic top washer on top of that with the metal washer on top of the plastic washer that holds that little Teflon drag on top of that, like so. And you could replace the ball bearing in itself back on there. It'll just go right on top of it, easy. And once you do that, you can replace the little this thing here, this little plastic thing that engages the pickup pins. It's kind of tricky to put on, but once you get it on, I like to hold it like this and just like work it back on there, and it just goes right back into place. It's a little, okay, there it goes. It's on there evenly, and then you twist it on there the opposite way until it's tight. You don't want to strip the threads by putting it on too tight. You just want it on tight enough to where it'll engage the pickup pins on the spinner head. Plus that too, it keeps this little pinion gear from moving around on the inside. Once you got that on, you can replace the pin that holds it into place. You hold down the spool a little bit, and it should kind of go in. Replace this pin. Ugh, dang it. Okay, I'm having an issue putting this pin back in. It should go into place. Oh my god, really? Okay, just got it on there. Once you get it to the point, it goes on. Finally, it went on. The pin went on. Thank God. Now that you've done that, once you get the spool back on, tighten the drag up as tight as it'll go to check to see if the drag's working right. If you didn't do it right, you shouldn't be able to move that drag at all when you pull on the line. And then loosen the drag all the way up to see if it works. Once you do that, it should work. Yep, it's working like a charm. Cover first by replacing the handle. I tried all my power to try to put it back. It would not work. So we're going to put the handle on. Everything's falling off of this thing. Okay. Try to put the handle on here. Spinner cone. Going back on. It's just simple. You got to put this stupid thing back on it. Of course, we got the line in the way. Okay. Come on. Okay. Now we can try to put the stupid spinner cone back on this thing. Okay, you gotta hold the stupid pinion gear down. Come on, come on. Hold the handle tight, goes on. Shit, come on. Okay, we'll put the cover back on so we can put the stupid base plate back on. Alright. Sometimes you have to tune this little spot here by pushing it all the way down or pulling it out a little bit. I think we put it on there a little bit too tight. Okay, that's good. Alright, now we're going to try to put the button back on again. Now we got that on there, we're going to move this out of the way. And of course it came off the hilt again. Okay, now we're going to try to put this on. This is the most difficult part of the cleaning process, which is to put this stupid cover back on. There it goes. Okay folks, I hope you like this review and tutorial on how to clean the Zebco 33 Platinum 2020 Zebco 33 Platinum reel. It's a good reel. Highly recommend it. Go ahead and get it, and I hope you like this detailed tutorial how to take it apart and clean it, and the little review I did on it. Y'all take it easy. It's been your old pal Hondo from Hillbilly Tactical, and you know what you can do. You put God first. He puts you first every time. You know what else, YouTube? God loves you. So does Hondo. Peace out.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's